If someone were to ask me what is the most influential thing in anime that I have outside of Ninja Scroll, my answer is easily Ghost in the Shell. With that being said, in this video, not only will I be illustrating Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell, but I'll also be critiquing what I thought of the newest series that is premiered and featured on Amazon Prime. So, without further ado, let's get started.
Why didn't you say so earlier?
Let me start out by saying that any critique that I give to a piece of work in art is simply that, a critique. It is not meant to put down, it is not meant to bash, it is clearly just an opinion that I have about the decisions being made in terms of the creative license that each creator has, and whether I agree with it or not, think it works or not, or what I would do in that thing. Every iteration of Ghost in the Shell, as a matter of fact, is subject to the creator's intention. That's the beauty of when this series franchise gets made over and over again. Although they follow the same ideology, each creator and team takes liberties in telling the story through what they envision that ideology to be and how to express it. This sometimes means changes in character development, a brand new series even, a revision of things, all without damaging the overall narrative. And for the most part, it has been successful. Not counting the 2017 theatrical Ghost in the Shell movie with Scarlett Johansson. That's more of the interpretation of what Hollywood thinks is going to sell in Western markets as a direct comparison to the ideology of the series, and a bigger conversation about what storytelling is in the West to what storytelling is in the East, where in the West it's about the end results and the East is the journey to get there. But I will leave that conversation for another day. So what do I think about the Ghost in the Shell show on Amazon Prime? In a nutshell,
Not quite my tempo.
I think it was a little too goofy. Now, goofy itself isn't a bad thing, and even in the most serious stories, a little levity goes a long way. However, in this series, after watching the first 2 episodes, it became very clear to me that the levity taken in this series has filtered into the overall tone, where the seriousness of the situation is overridden by the comedic antics of its characters, therefore watering down the actual moment-to-moment situations and then overall narrative. If you were to watch basically the same story told in the other iterations, for the example, I'll use the Mario Oshii movie compared to the Prime series, in 2 key moments that are exactly the same, you would quickly understand what I mean when you say it. Again, I'm going to say that as a creator, the intention to do so wasn't something that I would necessarily agree with, but at the end of the day, I know there are people who like it, and at the end of the day, I have to accept the fact that it just wasn't for me. Not that it was wrong, not that it should be changed, that it's just not the way I would do things or what I'm used to seeing in terms of, and in the difference, I don't agree with it. Perspective matters. My first foray into Ghost of the Shell was the 1995 Mario Oshii movie. And it wasn't until then that I was introduced to the manga, realizing I was already a fan of Matsumi Shiro from his previous work of Appleseed and Black Magic. The thing that happened was that Mamoru Oshii's tone was the first iteration of Ghost in the Shell I got, and although the manga had a slightly different comedic light tone in parts, both the manga and the anime of that time cemented the ideology, the tone, and the overall perspective from their creators of what I thought Ghost in the Shell is and should be. But I think there's a bigger issue here in terms of what this way of storytelling represents in what has become commercially a worldwide phenomenon that anime has become throughout the world that it wasn't before. The thing that bothers me watching anime as a kid and teenager in the 80s, still owning unsubbed Akira on VHS, the tone of the anime shows have very recently become more slapstick and thus a lot more casual. Stories that I've grown up with have been told in new iterations with the new style of animation, technology, what so have you. Whereas the story in terms of technology hasn't had anything to force it to change yet, and still the overall way they tell a story is more towards levity and lightness. It isn't just a problem in anime, but something I've noticed in all of pop culture. TV show, movies, comic books even. It seems to be something that is being done on a grand scale that aids to more of the thing that is being expressed. The main purpose is to entertain and have fun, first and foremost. Again, I'm not against that at all, but I don't think that should be the new standard. A commercially acceptable way of doing things that is easily digestible, especially in terms of deep lore, heavy science fiction that is Ghost in the Shell. I think that the variety of people who tell stories should have a range between, depending on what the story it is they're trying to tell. If it is a story about the ideology of man and machine melding to a higher form of existence, and when does man lose control and when does machine take over, I'm fine with levity in the moments because, or created by the characters being familiar with each other or being in situations that they react to. But in the case of this current show, which I think is indicative to a lot of anime nowadays, this has become the thing that isn't about the overall narrative and the importance of what the creator's trying to say, in this case, initially, but more of a lighthearted way to tell it. The problem with that is we live in a world of instant gratification. Everything needs to hurry up and get to the point. It's the stories that we're being told are told in a passive way because where we are in terms of absorbing content, which also is a dirty word to me, is that of the fact that we aren't paying full attention to the thing that is being expressed. Secondary screens, over-explanatory dialogue, and cultivated low attention in pop culture is deemed stories to be necessarily told in a way that in order for maximum effectiveness, the powers that be, in this case committees that created the animes and stuff that I'm referring to, know that in order to receive maximum effectiveness, the best way to tell a story is the simplest and most exact way. And in doing so, ideology, even creative integrity, potentially goes out of the window. And it begs the question, at the end of the day, we need to start asking ourselves, is the thing we're consuming merely for escapism, something that's just fun, or is it still art? And if that thing is art in the world we live in, does it being art even matter anymore? And that's my speech. I'd love to hear what you think, so please comment below. Let me know if you agree or disagree. If you have anything to add, something that would bring a new perspective to this, I'd love to hear it. Here is the finished version of the actual illustration. Inked and colored and everything. It is available through my subscription of Japes Unlimited, available on the Blackberryjuice.net website, my publishing company's website, Blackberryjuice Publishing. I'm also going to blog about this topic, which will be available on my Substack. The link will be below. I hope you enjoyed my little rant. Until next time, take care.